he has emerged as one of the key troubleshooters for the UPS government in its recent face-off with Anna Hazare's movement. Yes, the spotlight is on Salman Khurshid, and without wasting further time, we shall have him on to the point. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Anna Hazare's movement is finally over. It's all over for the time being. How do you feel coming out of it?
Well, the movement is, I assume, still on and will continue, because they obviously have some long-term plans, but it had built itself up to a crisis point for us, and I think it was important that it be diffused as quickly as possible, keeping in mind his health, concerns about his health, and also because the danger that the merits of the debate and the competing points that were to be considered were getting overtaken by emotion.
What was the turning point in your conversations with him?
Well, as far as Anna Hazareji is concerned, the direct contact that was made by Vilas Rao Deshmukh ji, and he obviously from his past as Chief Minister and as an important leader in Maharashtra has many points of common interest, and certainly knows Anna Hazareji very well, and he was certainly very welcome when he called upon him to ask about his health, and I think that was the critical turning point, the contact established directly between a government minister on behalf of the government and Anna Hazareji.
There are many versions of what went exactly in the final hours of your negotiations. You were the key negotiator from the government side.
Pranav Da was actually, we were helping him, but Pranav Da was leading us in it.
Would you enlighten us what exactly went in the last few hours?
See, the critical point was that we had to keep a window open for the standing committee to look at the merits of arguments on both sides, in fact on many sides, because there are a lot of people who have very weighty things to say about what the Lokpal bill should be. But at that point, of course, the focal point of public attention was the Jan Lokpal bill, which was advocated by India Against Corruption, a movement that was supporting Anna Hazareji. So the issue was that can we keep open a window for the standing committee to apply its mind objectively and give us a very strong and effective bill, but not foreclose anything for them. The second point was to be able to carry conviction with people that we were negotiating with, that this was not a sham and this was not an attempt actually to divert attention from their immediate concern, and wasn't just an attempt to buy time, but that we were sincere and that we were appreciating what their concerns were, but of course they could have been.
But the impression at one stage was that the government went backwards too much to pacify Anna. Was it correct?
Well, we neither rolled forwards and we never bent backwards. We didn't accommodate anyone against any principle or our fundamental beliefs and our commitment to the Constitution. We didn't. But you know, there is always give and take when you negotiate. Much to do with personal angularities and sometimes a little bit of ego, and you have to remove that and you have to talk objectively in the interest of the country. But I don't think that we should get into this bit about you know, who lost and who won. I think there was an issue before us. It was a pressing issue, an urgent issue, and it had caught the public imagination in a sense, and it was important that we should have been seen as being right and fair, and that we should be right and fair, and I think that's the balance we tried.
Was the government comfortable with Anna Hazare's team members? There was a stage when Vilas Rao ji was in direct conversation and contact with him, and the impression was that government wants to bypass that. Were you ever given this thought that were you comfortable, or you had, what was your take on that?
Well, see, if they wanted to talk from their side, they wanted to bypass us and talk directly to the Prime Minister. It doesn't happen normally that, you know, the Prime Minister comes up front, but if a breakthrough was possible, if some of them got through to the Prime Minister, then we couldn't have objected to it, because we are doing it after all in the leadership of the Prime Minister and for him and through his eyes and ears. Frankly, we were going to decide what our mandate was going to be. So if we reached out directly to Anna Hazare ji, I think it wasn't because we wanted to sidestep anyone or sideline anyone, but because sometimes, you know, you have hesitations at different levels, and it's good for both sides if you make a breakthrough to the core person and the person who leads the movement. And I think because there was this significant chemistry from the past that could be utilized to make a breakthrough, Vilas Rao ji suggested it, offered it, and then executed it. And I think we're all very happy that he had this measure of success.
And you had a batch and team of young MPs who were assisting you in the talks. It was a very...
Well, they weren't, I must say, they were not assisting. I think that they were remarkably active volunteers and participants in the entire process. And I must acknowledge and pay tribute to all of them. Of course, Sandeep Dikshit is the one who finally got us to meet, and he's the one who used his contacts for me to meet with some of the people on Anna Hazare ji's group. But my colleague, the young ministers, which includes Jitin Prasad, Sachin Pilot, Jyotiraditya Scindia, RPN Singh, I think were really wonderful. I don't think we could have done it without their support.
The entire experience, the criticism was that on the issue of corruption, the government was sleeping and somebody had to wake you up with agitation like this. There were questions that can the parliament be dictated by street movements like these? What has been the entire experience? I mean, you've been in public life for a long time.
This is not the first time that something on this scale has happened, but I think that it was unique in the 21st century with a lot of electronic media, and not just electronic media, but also new media, you know, Facebook and Twitter and what have you. It's a unique experience. It's the first time we've encountered this. In the past, we've known, I mean, obviously the elders have known the independence movement, they've known the Jayaprakash Narayan movement, they've known the period of Mr. V.P. Singh, they've known the Ram Mandir movement. So there have been movements of a popular scale in the past, but they've never caught the imagination of city middle class India with the same intensity as this one had, for very good reasons, but contributed in a major way by electronic media. And I think we must acknowledge, even if we weren't always happy with electronic media.
It's a free world, it's a free...
absolutely, absolutely. We acknowledge that they made a contribution.
Freedom of speech, and everyone was given prime time.
Well, absolutely. We felt that we could have got a little bit more, but you can never have a perfect world. But I think this is something that made a difference. We weren't sleeping. We were doing a lot in our own way. But yes, in terms of speeding up, in terms of adding a little dimension, this was a significant input.
We have come to the halfway of our program, and when we come back, we'll continue with Salman Khurshid. Welcome back. Today our guest is Mr. Salman Khurshid, the Union Law Minister. Sir, did the absence of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi hampered the negotiations from the government side with Anna Hazare? Did it ever occur to you?
Well, I think that we always have a great sense of comfort by knowing that she's around. And you know, she leads us from the front. Frankly, the politics of UPA, particularly the Congress party in government, obviously is guided and inspired by the Congress president, and her critical absence in this moment was felt. Even if we may not have said it for purposes of not demoralizing ourselves, our cadres and the people, but we felt it. And I think that I wouldn't say that because she wasn't around, we panicked. We have her inspiration, we have her training, and as soldiers of the party, we did to the best of our ability. And of course, we were led by our Prime Minister in government. He's the one who shows us the way. He's the one who gives us our mandate, and he's the one who corrects us if we are wrong. But somewhere in the backdrop, I guess there was a sense of missing someone. Yes,
in these points.
And we are looking forward to her return in good health and taking the reins again, and then showing us through over the next phases of this very agitation.
Coming back to the Lokpal bill as such, all the three versions are before the standing committee, and Rahul ji has proposed that make it a constitutional body. Do you think that this would be the finality of the situation, or is there any improvement in whatever he has said?
See, Rahul ji has raised the debate, I think, to a higher level, and certainly offered and suggested something which is far superior to anything that...
And is being welcomed across the board.
Well, it will, because ultimately if you test the idea on your aspirations, then you can't say that I only aspire to go up to a point and not higher than that. The highest that one can go is the constitutional body. And I think it's a very major step. We do realize, though, that a constitutional body may take a little bit longer than just bringing ordinary statute into existence. But that's for everyone then to make up their mind. If you are going to aim for something bigger, larger, more stronger and more robust, then it may require a longer period. But let's see how we move forward. It could also be in two steps, that you take the statutory step now and then in due course bring the constitutional status.
You require the joint sitting of the House? And
no, you don't require joint sitting House, but you certainly require 2/3 majority, and then 50% of the states have to endorse it. So it's a little bit longer
process. But you're hopeful that if it's a very viable thing which is emerging.
Well, it's doable. I mean, it's certainly doable because it's on a cause that everybody would be sharing. So it's very doable. It will send a very strong message to the country. But we don't want to use this as an excuse for delaying what is expected will be done in a shorter period. So let's see. Let us see. Let everybody talk about it, and with an honest and a sincere mind, whatever is the best and felt to be the best will be done.
I hope the government is prepared to realize all these things. But coming back to Lokpal and Anna Hazare, before leaving Delhi, Mr. Hazare has given a cue to his next set of agenda, the electoral reforms. Is the government prepared to face another public outburst on this?
Well, you don't need a public outburst. Government has been involved in electoral reforms for quite some time now. There are several reports that have come. We've looked at the practicality and feasibility. Last year, when I was not Law Minister, Mr. Moily was Law Minister, he'd organized 6 regional conferences. I attended 2 of them, Lucknow and Bhopal I went to, at which large number of stakeholders and people who have done work on electoral reforms made their contribution. That material is available, and I assume it's on the website of the Election Commission as well. We are already, some of the more important features of that, including decriminalization of politics, we are already moving forward. There's a cabinet note which will be before the cabinet very shortly. But there are some other larger.
What would that include?
That is to exclude people who have serious charges, criminal charges against them.
But pending in the court, and they will also be.
They will be excluded from elections. Yeah. Now that's to come to Parliament. It's to go to the cabinet and then come to Parliament.
That would be a very revolutionary.
Well, I think it is, but I hope that everyone falls in and supports it. Then there are other issues that still have to be considered. There are issues about proxy voting. There are issues about financing of elections, financing of political parties, greater transparency, also the election processes and so on. A lot of very interesting things have been contributed, but you know, on all these things you need consensus. So we don't anticipate, and we certainly don't think there is any need for an agitation. because we are already committed to it and we can move forward.
You've come wiser from this entire 2 weeks of hectic agitation, I hope so.
I think every step in life makes you wiser, and that's the way it should be, because if every step makes you more foolish, then you don't go very far.
Thank you very much, sir, for being on the show. That was Mr. Salman Khurshid. To the point.